Welcome back to another video, guys. Today we're here with the wonderful, amazing ladies from The View. Let's see what kind of foolishness they're talking about now, all right? They did not clip that video the best for you. Whoopi, you should talk to somebody about that.
Information and hate speech continue to plague social media. Meta and Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg says he's following the footsteps of ex-owner Elon Musk by getting rid of third-party fact-checking on the site. Now, here's what he said yesterday.
We've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. We're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X. We're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse. We used to have...
Listen, if you're buying any of this as a conservative, if you're buying any of this as a liberal or a libertarian who believes in free speech, if you're buying any of this, I have a 2-for-1 deal to sell you on a bridge. Immaculate. Okay? I have an airport in Zimbabwe to sell you as well. I'll throw it in as a bonus. He's going through a whole entire new makeover, just like how he tried to rebrand his company. He's been trying to rebrand himself. Growing out the hair, wearing the oversized t-shirt, wearing chains, wearing a $900,000 watch. So I've heard. But all he did was swap this around. Before, he had the I'm a tech innovator look going on. And basically, he just wore that as an entire uniform every time you saw him. And now he has this look going everywhere. Nothing changes. Same chain, one chain, watch on his hand, oversized shirt. Everywhere he goes. Listen, I may not have the largest wardrobe, but I have choices. He wears this like it's a uniform, like someone is, like he just says, okay, I have to change my look. But I don't have to change it every day, do I? Like, if you're buying any of this, it makes no sense. He says he wants to get back to the roots. I believe the roots is whatever the temperature of the country is saying. Back when it was advantageous to go along with it, you go along with it. Now that it's the other way around, now you're not so much for it, because what's the best way to take the country's temperature? An election. And the election said, we're not down with the censorship.
Have filters that scanned for any policy violation. Now we're going to focus those filters on tackling illegal and high severity violations. And for lower severity violations, we're going to rely on someone reporting an issue before we take action.
Oh, boy. I'm just curious, because human rights activists warn that this is a major step back that'll have misinformation, conspiracy theories, and bigotry running wild on the site. My question is, when did fact-checking become a bad thing?
Since Donald Trump became president.
Yes.
Absolutely. You're right. Absolutely. I have said from the Giddy Act that the worst thing that he has done is cause this misinformation and lying going on.
Alternative facts.
This alternative facts that Kellyanne Conway,
Yes.
she said alternative facts. You know, this guy Zuckerberg, I saw the movie, wasn't it Social Network?
Yeah.
Yes.
Where he says basically, I'm creating Facebook so people have a community, so that people can talk to each other. All of a sudden, it's become this big thing about, and a big lying machine that's going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, the wokeness is what is at the bottom of this.
Yeah, I just want to say, I'm sorry. If being woke is a bad thing, that means that the fact that I care about you, regardless of what you say or who you are, I want to make sure your family is as well off as mine is. That's too woke. It's too woke for me to say to you, hey, listen, if your kids, you don't want your kids reading this, maybe the best thing to do is let's go to the library together, and I'll tell the librarian what I don't mind my kids reading, and then you can tell the librarian what you don't want your kids to read. That's too woke.
Well, the new rules on Meta, Facebook, they're imperfect. I will say.
Okay, so before she gets into her spiel, I don't think anyone really thinks there's a problem with fact-checking. I just believe, and as many other people believe, those facts seem to have a whole bunch of opinions in them. You know, it's like you expect to get a nice, bag of Skittles, but then you end up with some M&Ms with peanuts in it, and it turns out you're allergic to peanuts. That's kind of what it seems like. So, for instance, one of the debates that we had, Trump was fact checked. I don't know how many times. Kamala Harris was fact checked. I don't even think she was fact checked at all. Maybe once. Let's give her once. While she sat on stage and said, "You said there were good people on both sides," and not a single one of the commentators stood up and said, "Fact check said that was misleading." Trump did not call white supremacists good people. He referred to the counter protesters, and he said there are good people on both sides. In fact, he went out of his way to say not the white supremacists, they should be condemned completely. But where was the fact check for that? The problem a lot of people have is the selective fact checking. The fact checking that has a whole bunch of opinions in it, and honestly, it's just there to tip your opinion on somebody ever so slightly while cutting off the true information and the true meaning of what the person is trying to say. So, for instance, a lot of things I like to do. Hey, you know what? This turns out to be false. But the thing that they fact checked wasn't even what the person was saying. It's like saying this person said the sky is blue. And then the person comes in and says, fact check, actually, the sky can be multiple. That's not what he was talking about. He was talking about, in this particular instant, the sky is blue. And then he took the rest of it and ran with it to call it false or misleading or whatever, other titles you want to put on it. But that's the problem a lot of people have with fact checking. And to say that it wasn't a problem before Donald Trump is if you're trying to say that people never lied before Donald Trump. It's politics. Come on.
Say this. I think it's a balance between content moderation, free speech, and fact checking. And what I think Facebook has gotten wrong for some time is they've had third-party fact checkers, but then Facebook Meta would ultimately make a decision on can this content be on. Oftentimes fact checkers can't, or these staffers at Facebook can't have.
No, they didn't make the decision. The government made the decisions. Do your research on that one. That's a doozy. I need to do a video on that one.
Have biases. I actually think, listen, X has become a hellhole for a lot of reasons, but I think that community notes actually work. You have to cite your source.
Let me interrupt you. What does free speech have to do with fact checking?
Because it's imperfect.
Because it's imperfect, and if you're fact checking somebody based on code information, for instance, oh look, maybe it came from a lab in Wuhan. Oh, fact check says that's false. That's unbelievable. It's a natural origin theory, only to find out that our government is now saying, well, it looks like that might be plausible. Hey, what are you doing? Did you subscribe yet? How about that like button? It's again very lonely and you haven't hit it yet. Come on, guys, hit that like button and subscribe for me, all right? Let's get back to the video. So the difference between fact and the truth or a lie in a lot of these cases just turns out to be some time and more information. Some people might have more information at a given time than you do. But does that stop it from being marked as, false? Does that stop you from ridiculing it and calling it a lie? No, it doesn't. But your fact checkers, and you put all your trust in this fact checking as if they're God and they know everything under the sun when they don't.
Perfect. That's not as simple as the sky is blue, the grass is green. We know the facts on that. Sometimes it comes into opinions or viewpoints. This is still
the grass isn't always green. That's the problem. The sky's not always blue. That's the problem.
Still a town square. I tend to be a free speech absolutist as long as it's not harming someone else.
We know the difference between an opinion and a fact. We do it every day.
A lot of this can be viewpoints where somebody could say, well, this is my viewpoint on it, and there were moderating things.
If you knew the difference, if you knew the difference between an opinion and a fact, there would be so much less argument back and forth. If you believed what numbers actually tell you rather than leading with your feelings, it would take you a lot further. Because again, if you believed in the facts or what we just said, you'd realize that censorship usually leads to tyranny, where freedom of speech leads to enlightenment. But we're not going to go through those facts. We're not going to go through those history lessons. We're going to go with our feelings. Okay. It always starts with affectionate, loving reasons. Therefore, we need to take your rights away. And then it leads to tyranny in the end.
Things around language you used around certain issues. But to the point I was saying, Community notes actually work. They have to be cited to sources. My issue is the algorithms. These tech companies are run by billionaires. They're completely unaccountable. Congress hasn't regulated tech in over 30 years, and they can push what you're seeing more of. They can hold back what you're not seeing, and that to me is the biggest issue. But we can complain about it all we want. We need to tell Congress that they need to also get involved.
Yeah, they absolutely do. The misinformation, the World Economic Forum listed misinformation and disinformation as
Who are they and why do we care?
the most severe short-term threat globally. So by removing these fact checkers, I understand the concern was, and Joy, this might answer your question, there were some conservative viewpoints that were being taken down. So these fact-checking industries started right in 2016 when President Trump was elected the first time. Yeah, it would be something like when there were debates on masks or shutdowns, they were taking these things off of the site, which as someone who could have debated that, these people were saying, you're taking our content.
Again, that's the point. When you have the institution saying, wear a mask, it'll save your life, but then they don't tell you what kind of mask you should be wearing. When they tell you 6 feet apart, why in the world would 6 feet apart save anyone? If I just sneezed in the spot that you're standing in and I walk 6 feet away and then you step in it, does that now mean that it's not still floating in the air? But these are the type of things where it was not true, was not factual, it was not okay for you to say. And even if we can find facts, right? Genuinely, we agree upon certain topics. The problem is it becomes a slippery slope when we give the power to an individual or an institution to decide what the truth is. And they will take it and they will run with it. This situation has proved that.
Off of this site. But there's a difference
the free
between
speech.
Alex.
Is that allegedly or is that factual?
Oh, there's
That's their
reported
conversation.
evidence.
Yeah, there are reports, there are things they took off. But the bigger point here is there's a difference between Alex Jones spewing hate, disgusting, false, and having a difference of opinion. But either way, I'd rather have them get it wrong occasionally with a screen door between free speech and say anything you want. So I'm frustrated that they did this because social media is already on the down.
Here's what I'll say about that. And I'll probably end the video right here, guys. I don't want to get too long. My personal belief is the best tell of what our nation, meaning the United States, agrees is most appropriate to govern in the rules that we agree on. I believe the best tell of that is the laws that we choose to pass. The things that we find or view to be acceptable to be said in a public space. Okay? So you can't threaten somebody in a public space. That's illegal. That's against the law. Can you call someone fat? Yeah, you can. Can you say I don't like you? Yeah, can you say that's a mental illness in public? Yes, you can. However, when it comes to online, a lot of these individuals seem to want to say, oh, no, we should have stricter rules than we would if we're everyday people walking and talking in public. And I'm not saying these businesses have to uphold the restrictions that is placed on our government via our constitution. But this idea that they need to do more because of feelings, I find that to be a slippery slope. And again, the road to tyranny and domination is always paved with good intentions. Oh, we need to protect these people, therefore you shouldn't say this. That's how it started. Don't say this word, that's a hate crime. Don't say that word, that's a hate crime. Only to end up in a situation where stop talking about the mask because that's not right. I don't have to debate you. It's true. A year later, turns out the mask didn't do anything for you unless it was an N95. 6 feet didn't do a single thing for you. They just did it to, calm the masses? Oh, they didn't know at the time. It was the fog of what was going on. Then why did you sit there and try to make it law? No, because you could. That's the problem. So that's my view on this, guys. I don't believe Mark Zuckerberg is changing a single thing, honestly. I think he's going to be the same exact person he's always been. And ladies on The View, they're going to be the exact same individuals they've always been. They don't understand problems unless they're the ones facing it. even though they have the history and they love talking about the history, which means they should understand it. They should be well versed in it, but they still ignore the history. Guys, let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm right. Let me see you guys getting active down there in the comments. All right. See you guys on the next one. Peace.